Welcome to a new episode of Meditando. Today, I have the pleasure of talking and meditating with an American musician, singer, and songwriter who is of Greek and Egyptian origin. She gets inspiration from various musical traditions and incorporates elements of world, folk, and devotional music into her compositions. Through decades of dedicated study and experimentation with Kundalini Yoga, she has created a profound and intimate connection with the transformative power of Nat Yoga. She has released multiple albums with her own independent label and gained a lot of significant following in yoga and spiritual communities. Her music centers on themes of love, healing, and transcendence, creating a meditative and transformative experience for the listeners. Welcome to the show, Simrit Kaur.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. We really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. I'm doing my best with the pronunciation. Yeah, to see. Thank you so much.
It was perfect. It was perfect. It was really good, actually.
Thank you, Simrit. I would like to start, or we always like to start, let's say, as icebreaker, no? Ask people how yoga appeared in your life.
Well, when I was in college, I started to practice Hatha yoga, and I was 19 at the time, and I was doing Hatha yoga for a year or so, and I felt that I love Hatha yoga, but I felt that I came to a plateau with it for some reason. And I don't know if plateau is really the word, but I realized that there was something else that I was looking to do in the yoga world, like as far as the style, and something just didn't click for me with the Hatha. So I quickly found Kundalini yoga because there were some classes offered in the city where I was in college. And the very first class that I took, I fell in love with it within the first 3 minutes. And I felt, oh, this feels really familiar. I've done this before. I mean, this is so cool. It feels familiar. It feels natural to me. And I was already into the healing arts. I was already a Reiki practitioner. And I was I had become vegetarian at that time. I was into healing with whole foods and herbs, and learning more about the body's natural way of living and feeling healthy naturally without the use necessarily of the Western medical system. So I was really interested in anything that felt sattvic and healing and natural. And Kundalini yoga came into my life in that time, and it was all over from there.
Yes, and in what moment did you realize this passion about chanting mantras?
Well, when I was a young child, I grew up in the Greek Orthodox Church, and we chanted. I sang in the choir since I was 5 years old, and we would sing chants in the choir all the time in Greek, in ancient Greek language. And we were singing very mystical, dark, and traditional church hymns. So that whenever I would sing, I remember I would feel a sense of freedom and liberation and peace. And I would go into a meditative space. Now I know that was more of a meditative space. And it felt so natural when I would chant and go into those spaces, and I would close my eyes and I would sing and go, and it felt transcendental, very transcendental. So that was in the church choir. And then I sang in the church choir until I graduated high school. And during that time, when I was in middle school, I also sang in the school chorus. So I was singing a lot. And my mom always told me that as a little baby and toddler that I would sing all the time. I would be making up songs and melodies, even as a baby, just sitting on the floor. And I remember in elementary school, then I had a little tape recorder. It was a Fisher Price tape recorder for kids, and it had an actual tape in it where you could tape yourself with a little microphone and then play it back. And so I started actually recording songs and recording myself from the time I was in grade school. I loved to come home from school, sit in the corner of the living room with my recorder and start recording myself. So that felt really natural to me at that age. And then as I got older in high school, I was studying singing, and I was studying more classical Western vocals with my old piano teacher when I was a kid. She was teaching me at the University of South Carolina. So I studied classical vocals with her for 2 years. And then once I got into college, I thought I was going to be a naturopathic doctor. And I always sang, and I would sing with different bands for fun. I always thought that the singing and all of the music that I played, piano and drums and things like that, I always thought that that was just something that I loved to do for fun. And I never thought I was going to do it as a career. I was going to go into the science field as my career and be a natural doctor, a naturopath. And I even went to graduate school to get more credentials to get into my naturopathic school. So when I was in college and I was taking classes, all my sciences, to get into the naturopathic school in Seattle, I thought I would go to the Kundalini class. I was taking the Kundalini yoga, and I was known for being a musician, but I didn't have a career doing it at this point in college. And then as I was taking all of my classes and doing my studies, I was tutoring people for a job. I was working at a restaurant for a job, and I started taking the Kundalini yoga classes, and the teacher and I started to work together, and I would start to play music for the class, because the first music that I ever heard in a Kundalini yoga class kind of sparked something in me. And I said, this feels really familiar to me. And I just had this feeling that kind of came out of nowhere. And I said to myself, I feel like I could do something really special and really, really beautiful and unique with these chants. They remind me of the chants I grew up with, and they're different language, of course, but same kind of vibe, and same kind of repetitive, the whole thing. And I feel like I could bring my unique gifts and style and make something really special and deep and meaningful. So I never did anything for a while. I started playing live music in the Kundalini yoga classes, actually. And that's kind of where it started. And then eventually, in my later, after, I would say maybe 5 years after that, I started studying Gurmukhi, which is the language in which I sing shabad or songs in, if I'm singing a different language, or mantras, the chants, the shorter chants. And I said to myself, I need to learn how to read and speak this language properly, because I'm singing in it so much, even though it was for fun and doing the Kundalini yoga, and I never recorded or anything. So I learned to read Gurmukhi and to pronounce it. And the best that I could. I'm still a student, of course, of Gurmukhi, and I learned how to sing and chant in Gurmukhi just like I wanted to. I wanted to learn it. I learned it very quickly, almost as if I had been picking it up from a past life or something, or some other time, And I learned it within maybe a month or two, and it got better and better over time. The more I would read it and things like that, and eventually started making recordings for the Kundalini yoga community, because a lot of the people in the community were hearing me chant and sing, and they started to ask me if I would make a recording just for the community. So the very first recording, the very first two recordings that I ever made were for the community. I never put them out online. I never marketed them. I still was doing my science-based career in naturopath. And then eventually the third album, which was the self-titled album that I made called Simrit. It's the album with the kind of aqua blue cover, and then my face is behind some glass. And I started to realize at that point that I realized early on that I had a gift with singing because of the spaces that I went into, or the way that people would tell me they felt when I would sing, even in the church. But I started to realize that I had a deep relationship with Gurumukhi in particular. Once I started learning the language and creating these albums, and people started telling me, well, we want you to come to Atlanta, or we want you to come to Boston, or we want you to come to Sweden, or they would hear me in the Kundalini community and they wanted me to come. And so I started going to a few places here and there, not touring or anything. And eventually it turned into a tour, and it turned into my career. So it's a kind of a short story and a kind of long-winded answer, I guess. But that's really how it started for me. It was not intentional at first. It was just for the community and for my self-expression, and because I love to sing in the classes. And yeah, I feel really blessed that it's turned into a career.
Thank you for sharing all this. Yes, maybe we can say it was maybe, I'm not really sure how to pronounce in English, but serendipity, maybe. Serendipity is, this something that happened just by chance, no? That you didn't even expect. But at the end, the outcome is great, no? It's well known the effect the mantras have in the spirit and in the mind of people, right? So I'm wondering, in personal, no, from your personal point of view, how mantras, have influenced your life and your career as a musician?
Mantra has been a very strong force in my life since I've been really young. Like I said, I've been chanting mantras since I've been in the Greek Orthodox choir. So the repetition of sounds and sacred sounds that have been chanted and sung over and over and over, for me, it felt like I was tapping into an energy well, like a very deep well of energy, and that others had also tapped into. And I tapped into it in the way that I did uniquely, and was able to go into different spaces with that energetically that felt very healing for me. So mantra for me has been a very important tool in my life, and friend, and energy that I feel very much entangled with in a good way, and I have a very symbiotic relationship with. So mantra has been very healing for me in times of turmoil in my life, or in times of any kind of challenge that I've had. Mantra has helped me get through hard times, has also helped me heal parts of myself that I didn't even know needed healing. And is that what you're asking me? If what effect has it had in my life? Or
yes, in your life, in your personal life, and also maybe even in your career, no, as a musician.
As a musician, it has helped deepen my music practice and help deepen my relationship to music and my voice. Because mantra is not about, is this a good singer or is this not a good singer, that kind of thing. Mantra is about an energetic current that we can fix our mind to. We can align ourselves with an energetic current through chanting a mantra. So for instance, like if I'm having a challenging day, I can sit for 3 minutes even, bring myself into a very calm state, inhale, exhale, and start chanting a mantra. Even if I'm in the car and I'm not sitting or in a place with my eyes closed, I can use mantra to center myself and ground myself and to align myself with a very positive and useful energy that helps me to be in alignment with my higher purpose, with my peace, with my truth, and with my authenticity. So mantra is very helpful for that. It has helped me to realize what is real and good in my life, and to also to tap into my reality and the reality of life instead of getting caught up in the mind so much. Mantra to me is like a boat. So it's like when I'm chanting, it's like I'm on a boat, and it helps me to kind of cross the wild ocean of life. And mantra is that safe boat for me that helps me to do that. Does that analogy make sense?
I love it, actually.
It takes me from one
feel
place
you when you say that. I feel you, no? Actually, I feel why in that situation, sometimes you are maybe lost, no? You don't know where to go. And mantras, at least how I experimented mantras, bring me again to present, no? And because sometimes we spend too much time in the past thinking about, oh, what I did, or I wish I didn't have to do that, or whatever, or even in the future, no? You spend too much time in the future, but no, we usually don't spend too much time in present. And I believe mantra help us, or at least when I chant, bring me again to present. And in present is when I can really make the best decisions, at least, based on my experience.
Yes. I love that. I love that you said brings you into the present, and it brings you into your genuine self, so we can make better decisions. That even if we're feeling good and we chant, it helps us to feel even like more peaceful and better and more just relaxed. It helps feel, and it helps the brain, I feel, to kind of for me, it helps me to bypass the thinking mind. And I feel that everyone I've spoken to about it that's done it has said the same thing. Mantra for me is the quickest way to bypass the thinking mind, the overthinking mind, and get into my heart and get into my reality, and to feel the reality of life, and to feel happier and more uplifted. And it feels really easy to chant mantra, especially since I've learned certain tips and tools to make it even more effective, with my body, the tip of the tongue, the navel, the certain ways, focusing in between the eyebrows. Sometimes if I can, and I'm driving and I'm chanting, it's like calisthenics for the mind, it really is. It's calisthenics. And then when the mind feels at peace and is feeling relaxed, the body feels relaxed, everything else feels easier in life and makes more sense, So yeah, I would say it's been like that. And as a musician, it's been an invaluable tool. It's been, for me, like I said, it deepened my relationship to music, but I chant mantras and sing mantras themselves in my music. And whenever I am chanting mantras in the music, singing mantras, I feel like that music has a certain kind of depth to it, because I'm tapping into that really deep well, like I was talking about, through the language itself, through the mechanism of the body and the brain. And yeah, it just in the energy system and everything. And it just is a beautiful science to me, a very practical science. It's not some esoteric, far off thing that people can't do if they're not a part of a religion or a spiritual path, or that anyone can do it and use it. That it was designed, the language, the particular mantras that I'm working with now in Gurumukhi, and the shabads, the songs, they're designed to help that person that is singing or chanting them to feel empowered, and to feel happy, and to feel prosperous, and to feel peaceful. And the mantra helps that in a very, very quick period of time. It doesn't take that long. So And, and it also helps to feel a sense of health, you know, overall health and vitality. So it's been a very, very powerful and useful tool in my life. And I'm forever grateful and indebted to this language and the culture that it comes from in the Punjab. And so I feel very, very fortunate to have come across Gurumukhi in my life and to be able to work with it.
Thank you for sharing all these feelings. I'm wondering, I commented in the introduction that you have a unique sound, we can say, and you combine not just mantras, but also other styles, music styles and traditional sounds. I'm wondering about this creative or creativity process, of selecting a mantra and combining with these. How is this process? How do you go through this creativity or process of creativity when you are creating music?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. You know, it comes differently every time, but mainly I would say I'll start playing music or I'll hear a rhythm in my mind and a melody. Usually the way that music comes to me is through melody and rhythm first. And then I'm feeling the rhythm, and then the mantra just kind of flows on top. It comes through. And I feel like the mantra that wants to come through is going to come through, depending on the rhythm and the melody that's coming through first. Sometimes, and in the past, I have decided I want to write music to, let's say, Hey Gobind or Ardas Bai or Chatra Chakravarti and things like this. I want to write music to this, or I want to write music to the Mangala Charan mantra or something. Sometimes I'll have a mantra in mind first that I want to put out there into the world, and then I write music to it. I start chanting the mantra over and over just in monotone. And then eventually I'm start playing chords on the piano or keyboard or harmonium. And then eventually the melody comes and it flows that way. So there's a lot of ways that it can happen. There have been a few times where I have received the mantras in a dream when I've been sleeping, and it will wake me up, and I'll have to, in the middle of the night, go and learn. In the melody, the mantra and the rhythm is already there in a package, and I'll have to figure it out. I hear it in my head and I figure it out on the keyboard. So that's happened a few times. It doesn't happen often that way, but it has happened a few times. And when that happens, that happened for the mantra or the shabad on my first release called Hey Gobind. And it was just for the community. I didn't think I was gonna do that and put it out there. It was on my very first album, and it's called The Sweetest Nectar, and Hey Gobind is on there. And when I wrote Hey Gobind, it literally took me 15 to 20 minutes, the whole shabad, the whole melody, everything, because I received it in a dream. And that dream actually woke me up in the middle of the night with the melody, with the shabad, and also with the rhythm. So I went and figured it out on the keyboard that night because it wouldn't stop. It was like it came to me in my mind, and it was going over and over, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I figured it out and eventually put that on an album as well. So it comes in different ways, but I would say mostly selecting a shabad, like a song or a mantra, and then putting music to it, and also hearing the rhythm and the melody in my head, and then the mantra comes after that. I hope that answered your question.
Definitely. Actually, I really like these. When this comes into a dream, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you start. I'm not a musician, but I really admire, musicians or any creativity process. I have listened similar, let's say, situations with authors, for example, where they wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and start writing, and they get a book or a movie even, sometimes directors, okay, and these solutions suddenly appears in the middle of the night.
Yes.
What I believe, I have never, well, I have some, maybe I had before, maybe some moments, or maybe good ideas, no, in the middle of life. But I really believe that maybe it's because we are really relaxed, no, in a deep dream. And when we really relax, we are able to connect. No? If you think in our brain as a radio and or something, no, we are connecting and we receive this, no. To, I like, at least I like to sing that way. So yeah, it's common to artists, especially because they are really flowing with this
That's really
wisdom
beautiful.
around the world. I'm wondering now, thinking in these musicians, they are maybe starting this musician career. They probably look up to you, as a role model, especially you have your own independent label, right? Discography. By the way, congratulations for that, and you have released several albums.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I'm wondering, what advice would you share with these musicians? They are just starting with this path.
Okay. Well, I would say listen to your intuition is the biggest form of advice I can give you. That's like the umbrella of all the advice. First, listen to yourself and be genuine to yourself. And also realize that it takes time and work to build. If you're wanting a career with it, it takes time and energy and money and work and tears and sweat and blood, but whatever you want to say, it does. It takes a lot of devotion to, I feel that it's taken me, I've had to really, I've had a lot of devotion and passion for music and this career once I decided to do it as a career. And so, yeah, listen to your intuition. I had a lot of people tell me that I needed to keep it traditional and instead do traditional kirtan and not do my own music with it. And I had a lot of pushback in when I first started doing it because I played different kind of music with it. It was like a world fusion that had influences from my Greek roots, from folk, like you were saying, from some rock, from some psychedelic this or whatever it was, from Motown even, from so a lot of R&B influence in there too. And I just did what I felt was natural to me and what I felt inspired to do. So I did not listen to those people that said I needed to keep it traditional. And like I said, I got a lot of pushback for that. I got a lot of, messages and phone calls from people that were like, what are you doing? And why are you doing it this way? And the biggest thing that I feel that I did that I can say that I really loved that I did and during all of that was that I kept going in the way that felt genuine for me. Because if I had tried to put myself in a mold and say, well, this is what everyone wants to hear, or a lot of people would rather hear and feel safe with, then I would feel that I was cutting myself off from the soul of the experience of doing what was genuine. So we essentially as artists, we have to be genuine to what comes through us and how it comes through us. And if we try to tailor it according to what everyone else wants or needs to feel safe and good, then it's not really art, is it? We're more of a puppet. So I kind of took a chance in that way. I took a big chance and did what I felt was natural to me and organic and genuine. And it has really following my intuition and my artistic sense and my guides and angels, as you would say, or, your ancestors and what they're telling you, there's a lot of validity to that. And I did listen to that, even though it was hard at times. So that's the biggest, I think, advice I would give musicians is have patience. Your craft will get better over time and it evolves too. Your style may change over time. It may not, but your voice and your craft will get better over time. And if it's a career, your career will grow over time in the way it's supposed to grow when you're putting time and energy to it, and when you're being genuine to yourself and to your own expression.
Thank you. Actually, this sounds applicable for any artist, basically, not just musician, but in any kind of art, you can apply the same principles if you think about that.
Yes, anything in life. I mean, really anything. Like being a parent is an art, you know, and I have a son, he's almost 18. And being a parent has been an art, and it's been an art of listening to my intuition about things and how I need to approach him in this way, not just what a book says, even though I read a book or two, but like, or talk with some elders and ask their advice. I mean, that's always a good thing, but being guided by our intuition is the best way, I feel, to, you know, to move through life. And it's going to help us be the most successful in anything that we do, whether it's a career or being a parent or being a friend or having a healthy body or whatever that is. So that's especially why mantra is so important to me, because it helps me tap into my intuition and feel confident in that relationship.
Yes, as a father of two, well, mine are 7 and 5 years, but yes, I support that. Actually, you are totally right. I'm wondering about your live shows, because your performance often are described as transformative and meditative experience, no, by the audience. What do you do in preparation to connect with the audience before a live show or a concert?
In preparation, I do a little meditation by myself, usually at the hotel first, to get into my genuine space. Because on tour or when we're playing live shows, there's a lot of hustle and bustle that happens before the concert. So for me, it's important for me to deliver the highest energy and the most, I think, potent, the most powerful energy, and to be able to be a conduit for that kind of transmission. I need to feel relaxed. If I feel tense, it's harder for me to sing, and it's harder for me to hit certain notes or whatever. So my main goal is to feel relaxed. So sometimes I take herbs, like I have an herbal tea or whatever kind of herbs will help me feel relaxed. I always do a meditation or a prayer, some kind of prayer, which is the same thing. And I center myself in that, even if it's for a minute or 2 or 3, keeping my vocal practice up and keeping my yoga practice and meditation practice, even if it's a few minutes a day, like I said, on the tour. Because that is, for me, the most important part of my live concert, is the ability to feel relaxed so that the sound current can express genuinely and powerfully and clearly through me. So did that answer your question?
Of course. Again, yes, definitely. Actually, I have my own routine before every interview. I chant the Adi mantra, you know,
Beautiful.
3 times for the same sake, you know, to relax and to be more present, you know, as commented before, the Adi mantra especially, right? Bring me again to present and try to open this space and connect with the person I'm interviewing, especially because majority of the interview I didn't meet before, right? So actually this one is the first time we are really talking by a screen, which is even awkward. But yeah, anyway, I use mantras as a tool to be present and to do my best connecting, you know, with the person. So it's also a powerful tool I have experimented as well.
Yes, beautiful.
Simrit, now I'm wondering about other, because music definitely is one of your passions. I'm wondering if you have any other projects that you are really passionate about, you would like to talk about with the audience.
Other than music or other music projects?
Yes, whatever you want. Any other passion that you would like to share with the people that is watching this interview?
Yes, I do actually. As far as, I mean, I have a passion for family and friends and enjoying life and going to see concerts and being a fan like going to be, I do have a passion for that. That's my favorite thing to do, is to go to live concerts where one of my favorite things to do is do a live concert myself where I'm singing and playing, but also just as favorite for me is to go to other people's concerts and be a fan and be completely just absorbed in that vibe and feeling. And so that's one of my passions. And I love doing that with family and friends. And I love spending a lot of time with friends and community at home and family and over food and going to the river together and things like that. That's definitely a passion of mine. And another passion of mine is to produce events. I realized through owning my own music label and producing my own concerts. So that's something I've done that I haven't really talked about in this interview. I have been the sole producer of my own concerts for almost a decade. And I just started working with a booking agency recently that helps me book shows in the United States. But and I'm working with more concert producers in Europe now, more independent concert producers, not in the mainstream music industry. But I'm still producing some of my own concerts now too. And I would say through the process of learning how to do that and seeing success in doing that, experiencing success in that over years of making mistakes and learning how to tweak it here and do it better here this way, I've found that I have a passion for producing concerts for people. It's usually around music, although it can be other types of events too, fundraising and things like that, which I have done. I have produced events for I've produced a fundraising event for our town in which we raised $50,000 for fire victims here in the surrounding areas and things like that. But everything that I produce is always usually based around music. So, but we had, like a raffle, and we had a silent auction, and we had food, and we had different bands come and play. And I love bringing other artists to our town and producing concerts for them, other artists that I feel inspired by and that I love and that I'm a fan of. So another one of my passions I found, and I kind of came to realize recently, is I love to produce concerts and produce events. And I'm very good at that because I learned how to do it out of necessity when I first started my career in music, because no one would, they didn't want to produce my concerts because the music was so different and they wanted to hear more traditional kirtan, and I wasn't doing that. So there were a few people that wanted to work with me and have me and move, but then I realized I wanted to do a tour. And in order to do a full tour, I needed to do it myself, because I would reach out to certain people. And this was in the beginning because I was just starting out and my music was so different. Now it's a whole different story because I've developed a career and a following and have a beautiful relationship with the family and everything. And so we can go to a lot of places and play now and have a nice connection with the people there. But when I first started out, I was kind of, in order for me to do what I really wanted to do, which was tour in different places that some other musicians were touring, bigger cities and things like that, where I wasn't getting invited and there wasn't someone that wanted to put the concert on. I said, well, I want to do it anyways, so I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to just figure this out. So I figured out how to put events on and how to put successful concerts on over the years. And I have been so surprised that through the process of learning to produce concerts, I have become very passionate about producing concerts for myself and events for myself, but also for others. So that's been really, really cool. And it's been a big gift in my life to be able to learn how to do that kind of thing, because I can do that for the rest of my life. Even if I wasn't doing music, I would know how to put events on. And so that is a passion of mine. And I also started over the pandemic another band, because another passion of mine is reggae music, but roots reggae music in particular, and some dance hall, but particularly roots reggae music. I grew up with it from the time I was in middle school. And roots reggae music is one of my favorite styles of music on the planet. And not just any roots reggae, it's usually the roots reggae from Jamaica and the islands, especially when it really started in the, in the 70s, in the late 60s and 70s. So I started a band here a few years back during the pandemic when I wasn't able to tour, called Zion Collective. And we were playing around town, local reggae. And we actually made an album called Become. That's the title of the album. And you can find it on Spotify or wherever you find your music online to stream or to download. And it's a band that I started here, and it's roots reggae and R&B inspired music. So that was really fun. That's another passion of mine too. Besides chanting, and singing and Kundalini yoga and all the things, it's like, yeah.
Well, I can tell you that when you are talking about organizing events or concerts, you sounds really passionate about. And in the same level when you were talking about chanting, about your career as a musician. So I see that light in your eyes. So happy to see that you have this also alternative project, that you can do, and you can especially enjoy, because yes, for projects we can have many ideas, but enjoying something is more difficult.
Yes.
And
yes,
I think you enjoy that as well.
Yes.
Really nice. And by the way, now that you are talking about root reggae, I really like also, again, I'm not a musician, I like many kind of styles, music style. But when you mentioned that, I don't know why I recall this documentary about Bob Marley. The title is Marley. One of the best, actually. I cry a lot, and this is the real history, about how reggae was born, in Jamaica. Really recommended one.
Yes, that's a wonderful documentary. I think there's a movie coming out next year too with actors, where they're going to have a movie about his life. So I really really suggest it. Bob Marley to me was a yogi, so to me, yoga doesn't have to do with one style or one way dress or one language, or if someone is smoking herb or not, like Bob Marley or whatever. He was connected with the Most High, with the source, with his soul, with God, whatever you want to call it. So to me, that's yoga, that union, that connection. And so that's why we do the practices we do. That's why we chant the mantras. That's why we that's why we do a Sat Kriya or a breathing meditation. It's to get us into our center and feel the connection with the source, the one that created all of us and where we all come from. And when we feel that connection to where we came from, even though it feels intangible, the full but when we feel it, we can't necessarily describe it, but music does that for me, and reggae music does that for me just as much as, being in a concert where someone's chanting kirtan, especially if it's conscious reggae. It's not just the style, but it's usually the particular artist that I really enjoy. And Bob Marley is definitely one of them for sure.
Actually, I watched recently the teaser of this movie that I think is going to be released next year. And it's funny, or it's interesting that you say that Bob Marley was a yogi, because yoga is union. And actually this movie is particularly about this event of, first he was this intent not to kill him, and after that this big concert in Jamaica to unify again the two parties in Jamaica that was really separate, to avoid this civil war and all this. And it's about union, it's about yoga, this movie, this particular event in his life.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm really looking forward to that movie. And yeah, you're right. It is. It's about union and togetherness. And that's what's real and what's really important in life. And it's so easy right now to get so distracted and to feel anxious and scared and to feel fear and to feel disconnected with one another because of the nature of our world right now. So I love that music and mantra and, you know, the practice of asana and meditation and all the things help bring us together in that way, help us feel connected with our soul and with that which created us. And in turn, when we feel that, we feel more connected to life and with each other. So, you know, there's many ways to achieve that feeling. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Actually, I have one more question before jumping into the meditation, but maybe this question was answered already, no? Because what you were commenting before. We like to wrap up the interviews with the question of, if you have one wish, only one wish that will apply for you or will affect you and also will affect the rest of the human beings, no? So it's a wish for you and the rest of the world. What will you wish for?
Internal peace of mind. Because when we have internal peace of mind, and I always pray for peace of mind for myself too, because we live in a world where there is a lot of hatred and division, and people are confused because of that, because it's not our natural state to feel divided between each other and to feel hatred and things like this and to have war. It's not a natural thing for us to do. It's natural for us to feel connected and to help one another and to feel empathy and to feel heart connection together. So I feel that right now the world is very, like, there's a lot of confusion right now in the world, and there's a lot of distraction. So for me, I think peace of mind would be the number one thing that I would want for myself and everybody to have more of, because when we feel peace of mind, we naturally don't feel an aggression or a competition with one another as much. We naturally feel more connected with others when we feel more connected and peaceful in ourselves. So peace of mind and health, just overall health, because when we feel healthy, things tend to flow better in our life for us, and we tend to feel more at peace, and we tend to want to help people more, and we tend to feel more connected. So
thank you so much for sharing this wish. Well, Simrit, I give you this space for you to share a meditation, whatever you want. I really enjoy the conversation. I really feel like connected with you, especially this last part of the interview about reggae, about organizing events, because I also like that. So thank you so much for the opportunity of talking and now meditating with you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ricardo. Thank you so much for having me. And I also feel a nice connection with you too. And I'm so grateful that you invited me to do this today. I really, really appreciate it and the opportunity to share. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. So